people are pretty simple. They want results. They want a strong economy. They want low inflation, and they want security, which is why Donald Trump is succeeding. Just take a look at the new poll numbers. These are amazing, you guys, coming out. I want to go to CNN because this Harry Anton guy, he cracks me up. He gets so excited about it, and it's amazing. This is the reality of the situation on the ground in America right now. Let's cue the tape.
I think it's time for a bit of a reality check, right? We were going to late April. Donald Trump's approval rating, his net approval seemed to be falling. He seemed to be adios amigos. People were writing his political obituary. He is rising from the dead. Look at this. Hello, Trump's net approval rating among voters. This is the Reuters Ipsos polling. Look at this. In late April, he was 8 points underwater. But look at where he was in the most recent poll among voters. He's up 7 points to a -1 point net favorability rating. This is not the picture I think a lot of people were thinking that we would be painting in late April. I think a lot of people expected his approval rate to keep dropping, but at least according to Reuters Ipsos, it's in fact rising.
Put this then in a larger perspective, Harry.
Yeah, okay. So, this is just one poll, right? But let's take a look across an aggregate of polls. What are we seeing here? And I want to compare both to where Donald Trump is now versus where he was in late April, as well as where he was at this point in term number one. What you see is at -6 points, he is a little bit worse off than he is in the Ipsos Reuters polling, but he is considerably better than he was in late April when he was 9 points underwater. And more than that, look at this. He's nearly 10 points better than he was back in May 16th of 2017 in his first term. So what we see is Donald Trump's not just doing better than he was doing in late April of 2025. He's doing considerably better than he was doing at this point in term number one, about 10 points better than he was doing at this point in term number one.
In a vacuum, -6 isn't good, but in Trumpian terms, against himself, it's actually a pretty good position for him to be in politically compared to himself.
Exactly right. This is considerably higher than he has traditionally been.
So the big question here is why, Harry? Why did it bottom out? Why might it be rising?
Okay, why? Well, take a look at the chance of a recession. It's actually falling. The chance of a recession is falling. In late April, it was 60% according to J.P. Morgan. Look at where it is now. It's less than 50%. How about Goldman Sachs? You see the same thing. 45%, now falling to 35%. The bottom line is, it is the economy, the economy, the economy. As the chance of a recession has fallen, as the trade wars have kind of collapsed a little bit, at least with China, Trump trying to make a deal, we do see that I do think that the voters are responding to this, and therefore we're seeing Trump's approval rating going up.
The tariffs were really hurting him.
I mean, I say this all the time. And it's in part because, yes, I've been an economic reporter my entire career. And so I tend to look at all of these political issues through the lens of economics and what it means, not just on a macro level, but on a very micro individual level for families all across America. And what are they seeing right now? The price of eggs is coming down. They're seeing the price of gas is starting to come down. They're starting to see more normalcy for the economy, and that goes a long way. So by reducing inflation, you're making people's lives a whole lot better. There's something that we used to look at Bloomberg was called the misery index, right? And the misery index during the Biden years was off the charts. And so that misery index is actually turning into an opportunity kind of index, right? This optimism that he's bringing in part because of the success that he just had overseas, which, by the way, he's going to tout, right? He's pretty proud of what he was doing over there. I think everybody's excited about the opportunities that lay ahead.
They'll say, I did that, and everyone will say, but somebody's going to be cutting a ribbon, and well, we're going to be finished long before that.
Oh, yes, that's the game.
Somebody's going to be taking the credit for this. You remember, press, this guy did it.
This guy did it, right? And he's loving what we're seeing in the stock market. I'm going to point out you're seeing a little bit of downside right now as we speak, going into the last moments of trading, but not much. In fact, the S&P is pretty much flat. NASDAQ down just about 0.1%. Dow in positive territory. And I should point out, you guys, look, we are positive for the year. We're positive for the year. Stocks have been on a tear, especially since the Liberation Day stuff. And he knows it. He knows it, and he's excited about it.
Amazing what a rising market will do. Oh, it's going to get a lot higher. In fact, I told people 5 weeks ago, this is a great time to buy. I got criticized for that. Now they don't criticize me anymore. People should have listened. But it's going to go a lot higher. You see, we've never had anything like this happen. It's an explosion of investment and jobs, and great companies are coming in.
right? All that money that's coming into the U.S. Because if the rule is, hey, you're going to get hit with a tariff unless you're manufacturing onshore, a lot of companies are going to say, maybe I ought to be out of manufacturing onshore. You had a whole bunch of deals happening there in the Middle East that he scored, he's taking credit for. Don't forget, he said repeatedly, right? Back right after Liberation Day, he told everybody to buy. Letitia James is going after him for insider trading for that one because, once again, she just fundamentally doesn't understand things, especially when it comes to business. I mean, insider trading is when you don't actually share information with the public. In that case, he's sharing it with everyone, just like he did there on stage in Saudi Arabia, just like he did the other day in the Oval Office.
It's the biggest bill of its kind ever in the history of this country. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune have done an incredible job. I mean, I'll let you know, we have to get a vote, but we have a lot of support for that bill. And if that happens on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. You know, if we get that, if you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight.
You know, I should point out that bill is making progress. It made its way out of the House, so some of the diehards, Chip Reed and others that were protesting that bill, that's actually made it out of the House. And so more good things possibly to come there. So he's very, very bullish on the economy. Of course, I'm bullish. You know that. I've been saying that all along. You want to be invested in this. If you're not subscribed to my own research company, I started with a dear friend who spent 20 some odd years running billions of dollars on Wall Street. Please do that today. It's just $1 a month. You can cancel anytime. Introductory rate of $1 a month there at 76research.com. Just looking at some of our portfolios, we've had obviously tremendous success. I encourage you guys to take a look at those portfolios. You get 10 to 15 names in each one. Something like the income builder might be good if you're somebody who wants to find some dividend stocks and one day retire, of course, and be able to live off of some of that investment income. So 76research.com. You can sign up there. Just use code word dollar to get that introductory rate. So much happening right now. I want to stay on this theme of the economy, though, because there's a commentator on Fox News who's there basically because she's a Democrat and probably comes pretty cheap. And she has a role on a show called The Five, which you may have seen before. And she kind of says things that don't always add up. And she said another little thing that didn't quite add up the other day. I'm kind of like, why do they bother with this? Like, why do they have to have these token Dems that they put on? I guess they want to have some commotion and be able to allow somebody else to win the fight, namely a Republican. But it kind of feels like a waste of airtime. Nonetheless, she said something which doesn't totally make sense, and I'm going to explain why. Here she is chiding Jesse Waters. Jesse saying, look, things are doing great. You know, he's overseas. He's getting all these deals. Isn't this awesome? And then she comes back with something about Moodys, which we'll get into. Watch.
47's riding high in the polls after delivering a Middle East masterclass, Jessica, bringing home trillions in new U.S. investments from the Gulf states. And yeah, he still found time to clap back at Bruce Springsteen's overseas meltdown, where the boss called him corrupt and treasonous. Trump saying Bruce is, quote, just a pushy, obnoxious jerk who fervently supported crooked Joe Biden. This dried out prune of a rocker, his skin is all atrophied, ought to keep his mouth shut until he gets back into the country. And as he battles aging rockers, Trump's giving a lesson in humility on his Mideast tour.
I'm just thinking, we have a president of the United States doing the selling. Do you think Biden would be doing it? I don't think so. But it's so important. I think I have to be a cheerleader for our country. That's why our country is doing so well. You know the sad part? Whoever's next president, let's just say whoever's the next president is going to say, what a great job they did. Look, I built all these plants. I built all these factories. Can you imagine? I'll be sitting home. Who the hell knows where I'll be? And I'll say, I did that.
All right, Jessica, Masterclass, it's not really in dispute. So my question to you is, how big of a masterclass was this?
Not in dispute at all. approval rating bump, that's real life. I live and die by the polls, but that is directly related to him cleaning up his own tariffs mess. So that's moving from the 145% tariff on China to just 30%, where, you saw the CEO from Walmart, I presume, saying that the prices are going to go up. So we'll wait for that. And while we were in the commercial break, Moodys downgraded our credit for the first time in the agency's history. So all good news all around. Masterclass.
Okay, so that was taken as a bit of a dig, right, to Jesse Waters. But the problem for poor Jessica, aside from the vocal fry, I can't even do it. I can't even mind because I don't want to destroy my vocal cords. Anyway, aside from that, for poor Jessica, is that she's not that familiar with markets and the economy. And so what she doesn't seem to comprehend is that Moodys was looking to do this for ages. And these things are not taken lightly. They take a lot of time in order to do. And so this is a direct result, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, of the money printing that we saw during the Biden years. Maybe they chose not to do it during Biden's administration because they, perhaps like James Comey, wanted to make sure that he got elected again. I don't know. But in other words, this was a long time coming. It was very much in the making because we were spending so much money and we were printing so much money and you had such tremendous inflation and nobody really saw a way out. This is something that was well articulated by our brilliant Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, on Weekend TV over the weekend. Let's listen in.
I think that Moody's is a lagging indicator. I think that's what everyone thinks of credit agencies. Larry Summers and I don't agree on everything, but he said that when they downgraded the U.S. in 2011. So it's a lagging indicator. And just like Sean Duffy said with our air traffic control system, we didn't get here in the past 100 days. It's the Biden administration and the spending that we have seen over the past 4 years. We inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, the highest when we weren't in a recession, not in a war, and we are determined to bring the spending down and grow the economy.
And that's what he's doing. In fact, if you go back and you listen to his hearing, when he was there explaining to Congress why he was even willing to take the job as Treasury Secretary. I mean, he was running a big asset management firm. Who the heck needs that, right? It was because of the insane amount of money that we were spending and his belief that our system was becoming increasingly fragile and we had to intervene and we had to do something. And he wanted to be the guy to do that. So, Jessica, this is what Jesse should have told you. Like, what you're saying really doesn't make any sense because that is entirely a result of the very poor economic policy that we saw out of the Biden administration for 4 solid years. Again, reminder, 76 Research, go there because we've got all kinds of good stuff going on, including, gosh, I think I just saw something on Donald Trump saying that Russia and Ukraine have agreed to a ceasefire arrangement. So again, more breaking news that is very, very good for the world, courtesy of one Donald Trump.